Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. I am Cyrus Webb, joined by my co-host, Dalsimer. I want to welcome you guys tuning in on the side of Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. Going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be a part of our conversation. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. It is the last show of the month of October. And actually, it's the last day of October as well. If you guys are joining us live, so glad you guys can be with us. And we're now live on Amazon Live with It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day, featuring the book by my co-host, Dalsimer, by the same name. You all can get it here on Amazon in print. You can get the Kindle edition as well as the audiobook. We're glad you all could be with us as we're wrapping up this month. And I hope you guys have had a great month. This topic, I think, is going to be really good. And I think it's really good, Allie, that we're having this conversation at the end of the month, getting ready to go into a new month, because it really shows the importance of forward momentum. But Allie, how you doing?
I'm doing really great, Cyrus. Thank you so much. I
Well,
appreciate it.
well,
Congratulations on
uh,
your Guinness Book of World Records. Like, shout out in a big way.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Allie, you are normally it's me that's on the road when we do our show. Now you're on the on the road as
I
well.
am. I
I
am.
so
I am in Salt Lake City.
Yeah. Well, look, so glad that we could be able to have you with, and I'm glad that you're having a good time. We have a great one today, Allie. But I said to you before we went live here, I think there is such an interesting theme in this one, and we're going to get into it in the quote and everything that kind of builds around it. But I want to talk about for you as we're kind of wrapping up this month. What has it been like for you to see and to be living the importance of not starting something and finishing it the same way? That the importance of actually seeing some momentum in what you do in your life.
Starting something and then not finishing it in the same way.
Yeah.
I don't really know what you mean by that.
Yeah. So, there are so many people who they say they're going to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't actually take any steps towards doing it, but they say that they're that
Right.
they're going to do it, or they're in the
Yeah.
process
One
of.
day.
Yeah. So what has that been like for you to see how you've been able to, even if it's something small, to be able to say you're going to do something, but at least take some steps to see it happen? Maybe I'll ask it that way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a huge thing, and it's an issue that so many people face. Like, we all want to do X. We're all very focused on the end point, um, and so much information is out there about the end point,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of information that provides the step by step guidance on how to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to build a house. Okay.
Right.
um, and and so one of the things that I try to do through the book, and that I try to do in my life, is try to break things down.
Hmm.
You learn it in kindergarten, and I even say you learn all the important lessons that you need in life in kindergarten. And one of them you learn is to chunk it out, right? Like, if you're learning how to read and you come across a difficult word and it's long, they tell you to chunk it out, break it into smaller parts. And I think that that's a valuable lesson that you can apply universally in life, no matter what you want to achieve. If you break it down into smaller chunks, into manageable bites, and you set your specific, manageable, realistic, time-bound goals, your SMART goals, you can get there, and taking small steps. So, we talked about the podcast. We talked about this and how you had encouraged me to venture out and do my own podcast. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too much work, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, now I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And, the first part of that, I tried to sit down and come up with a podcast idea. I really did. And I couldn't think of anything that was interesting to me. And if it's not interesting to me, it's certainly not going to be interesting to anybody else.
Hmm.
Um, and, and then it hit me that people are always asking me about, like, my process, and I'm interested in other people's process. And so then I was like, oh, I have an idea. And that was the first step. So the first step was having an idea, right? And so then the second step was, whatever it was, and you move on and on and on. And I think that is the really important lesson, and how I've gone ahead and implemented that in my life.
Love that. And I think it's a great reminder for us. And if you guys have not, even though we've been going through Allie's book and it's now season 2, looking at it chapter by chapter, if you start at the beginning, you'll kind of see some of the things that Allie some of the challenges, some of the difficulties she faced, just like everyone else in life, but also how she's been able to move forward even with small things, but also realizing that even the small things are important. And that's the other thing I want to ask you about before we get into today's chapter, Allie, because I have always felt like in my life, just I don't know where this came from, to be quite honest with you. Maybe it was my grandmother, now that I'm thinking about it, that all tasks are important, no matter how
Mm.
small they may be. Because even, okay, I was in before this world, I was in hotel management. And I realized that yes, my front desk clerks were up front and they were welcoming you, but it was really the housekeepers and the maintenance people who were making sure that everything was, was the way it should be. And
Yeah.
I felt like even though they weren't paid as well, ironically, as the front desk people, that their job was, even more important. How has that helped you to know that really in life there really is no small achievement, that all achievements really are to be celebrated?
This is why everyone should work in the service industry at some point in their lives. Because I learned that very same lesson, Cyrus, when I was waitressing. I waitressed
Mm,
at TGI Fridays,
okay.
and, shortly after I got out of school.
Mhm.
And I remember Reed, our manager, we finished this 2-week training and we were all sitting around having this meeting, and he made a comment about, as the waiters and waitresses, you guys think you're the most important person here, and I'm here to tell you that you're not. And of course we're all like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, because you might take the order, but if nobody's there to cook your food,
Yeah.
nobody eats. If nobody has if the dishwashers don't wash the dishes for the cooks
Mhm,
to put the food on,
mhm.
nobody's getting any food.
Yeah.
If and he went on and on and on. The busboys don't clean the tables, the hostess doesn't seat your section. It's all these things. And he basically pointed out the importance of every job that was in that restaurant, every job being equally important, and how if one individual failed, the whole system collapsed, and how it
Yeah.
was so important to work collaborative like that. And there
Yeah.
is no such thing as a small job when it comes to working as a team. And so I learned that very same lesson you did, and it's one that, like you, I've applied through my whole life. There is no small task. The devil's in the details. It's the
Yeah.
details that make things, best. The difference between a really fast swimmer and an Olympic gold medalist can be 100th of a second, right?
Mhm.
So, it's a lesson everyone should take to heart. And I really do think everyone should work in the service industry, because you really
I agree.
learn it in a very practical way when you do that.
I totally agree. When I became a general manager, Allie, of the hotel, I literally spent a week learning how to make the beds with the
Yeah.
housekeepers, how they clean. So I knew and I understood, and that also helped build my appreciation for that too. Antoine, hello to you over on IG. Antoine says,
Anton.
"I've worked with many people who make it all go smoothly behind the scenes, or go unnoticed, or and appreciate it." That's so true,
So
Antoine. It
true.
happens all the time. Makita Smith, hello to you over there on YouTube. We were talking about you earlier in your great episode
Yes, we
with
were.
So what's your process? Hello to you, Tina Siemens. Tina joined me in Mississippi this week as well. And I see you guys over there on Amazon as well. Welcome. For those who are just tuning in, you all are watching It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day with Allie Dalsimer, who wrote the book, literally wrote the book on this. As and so you guys can get the book here on Amazon in print, the Kindle edition, or also you can get the audiobook as well. Allie, we'll go ahead and go into our chapter, which for our audience joining us, it starts on page 73 in Allie's book. Before I have you read it though, Allie, I want to mention the quote, if you don't mind, and then
Yeah.
talk about how this quote kind of came to you before we read it. In 20 years, the quote is from Lenny Briscoe from Law and Order, which everyone knows. Lenny Briscoe, if you watch Law and Order. In 20 years, DiMaggio never had to dive for a ball. Funny how that happens. What was it about that quote? I'm curious, that kind of resonated with you, that made it stick with you.
The thing that really made that quote stick with me was it set in the episode that it was in. It really showed that if you take the time to prepare, and if
Mhm.
you practice, and there's the expression, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Practice does not make perfect, right?
Mhm.
My son's choir teacher told him this. Practice makes permanent. So if you practice it wrong, you're going to be permanently wrong.
Oh,
Practice makes
interesting.
permanent. But if you
Yeah.
practice it right, then you can
Right.
achieve perfection, right? And so the more that you prepare, the better you will be prepared.
Mm.
And that quote to me just sums up so much in life. Like, no matter what you're doing, if you prepare for it, you're going to do a better job. It's just the way it is.
Love that.
So that to me was what it was. And those and Cyrus, you had mentioned beforehand that not everybody might know who Joe DiMaggio was.
Hmm.
You know, he was with the New York Yankees and had the longest hitting streak in from May to June in 1941. 56 games he hit in baseball. He hit a ball every single game. And he's, of course, been inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1955. And he was just, he was just an all around, he was the Cal Ripken of his time.
Got it.
And so, he was so good
Yeah.
because he worked so hard.
Love it.
And so Lenny Briscoe saying, in 20 years, he never had to dive for a ball because he knew where that ball was coming and he
Yeah.
could position himself where he knew that ball was coming. So he
Yeah.
never had to dive for a ball because he
Love
was prepared and so studied the game so much.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. Ellie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, here we go.
All right.
In 20 years, DiMaggio never had to dive for a ball. Funny how that happens. Lenny Briscoe, Law and Order. Our lives are comprised of individual moments in time. These moments offer endless opportunities to learn and grow, to change the direction we're heading. What's most important is listening to our inner voice and moving in ways that lead us closer to a soul-deep satisfaction. If we don't move forward, progress, we'll get stuck, stagnate, and end up sad, regret. Moving out of our comfort zones, eschewing stasis in favor of forging new paths is how we extricate ourselves from life's deep ruts. Embracing uncertainty is integral to a well-lived life. The choices we make and the actions we take influence our success. If we do nothing, then nothing is what we will accomplish. If we prepare, we'll be ready when opportunity's window opens. Keeping up with homework can help us do better on that pop quiz. Washing hands properly and frequently can help us avoid the flu that's going around. Practicing between lessons can help us master the skill better and faster. Eating healthy and staying hydrated can help us survive the 5-hour traffic jam. Making forward progress over time, irrespective of how much progress we make in any given day, pays off. On those days when we are in float versus swim mode, overwhelmed or distracted by circumstance, putting off tasks might be more beneficial than undertaking them. We've been told procrastination is a productivity killer, and yet it's worth considering how we define productivity. For example, is endlessly completing mindless and meaningless tasks really more productive than taking a mental break to consider the ramifications of an important decision? When pursuing our dreams, the work and rest we invest will pay dividends when our chance finally comes. Like my fortune cookie read the other day, when opportunity knocks, it's up to you to answer it.
Love that. So, Ellie, I actually want to start at the end of this one because I thought this was interesting. Because I think people may, and I heard, I don't know if you're a Gary Vaynerchuk fan or not, Ellie. I don't know. We've never talked about him, I don't think. But Gary V is someone who I love to watch. I love his energy. He's not for everybody. I want to say that. He has a bit of a potty mouth, but he is a great entrepreneur. He's a great entrepreneur. He's really straight, no chaser. He really tells it like it is. He don't let you get away with a lot of excuses as to why you're not doing things. But you say in the very last paragraph, when pursuing our dreams, the work and rest we invest will pay dividends when our chance finally comes. I thought of Gary Vaynerchuk when you were reading this because one of the things that he does not believe in is hustle culture. That you have to be working 24 hours a day and you have to be grinding, and not taking care of yourself, not being able to appreciate what you've done. What has helped you to understand the importance of both, Allie, of the work, but also the rest when it comes to pursuing your dreams?
Yeah, well, I had to learn the hard way, right? So, I mean, there have been several times in my life where I have just gone and gone and gone and gone and gone, and the inevitable outcome is burnout. Mm-hmm. It's just burnout. You get exhausted, you're cranky, you're spending more and more hours accomplishing less and less output, whatever that output may be.
Right.
and really taking time to take a step back and rest so that you can recharge your batteries
Mm.
is really important. The analogy I like to use is, in music, the pause, the rest is just as important as the note to the overall quality of the piece. And so you have to play the pauses. And I think you have to play the pauses in life as well and make sure that you are taking time for your mental and physical and emotional health. And for me, it was just, learning the hard way because I'm stubborn sometimes and I'm really bad at taking my own advice. But as we've discussed, I'm working hard on really taking my own advice these days and making sure that I do have time to rest and learning to say no when I need to.
Yeah.
Because, like you, I'm a very busy person. Like so many people, we have a lot on our plates.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to say, you know, I can't. I just
Yeah.
can't. Even
Yeah.
if you technically could,
Yeah.
because you could fit it in, but really, you actually need that time to, go for a 30-minute walk. Because if you don't have whatever your outlet is, if you don't have that downtime, you don't have that rest time, it's going to have a negative ripple effect throughout your entire life.
So true, and that's why I'm so glad you explained about the DiMaggio quote, Allie, because you also say this, and it ties into what you explained about him. You say the choices we make and actions we take influence our success. If we do nothing, then nothing is what we'll accomplish. If we prepare, going back to what you mentioned about DiMaggio and him knowing, we'll be ready when opportunities window opens. So I want to talk about the preparation because as we're wrapping up the month of October, Allie, there's so many people that just think, and I've met people, I'm sure you have too, that just think that things are just going to come to them. They don't
Yeah.
have to do any work. Oh no, people know I'm talented. People know I can sing. They know I can dance. They know I can act. Hello to you, Mom. My mom's watching over there on Facebook. Hey,
Aw,
Mom keeps getting
hi.
good at this. Uh, but um, how important has it been for you to realize the importance of being prepared for the opportunities that you want?
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is, "The harder you work, the luckier you'll be."
Yeah,
And what I'm trying to say when I say that is that luck often has nothing to do with chance. It has to do with preparation. So, for example, we've talked about my son is in musical theater, and in musical theater, you have auditions, but you also have chance opportunities. And if you walk into something, if you walk into an audition and you haven't really internalized the materials and you haven't practiced the vocals and the singing so that you don't have to think about what note you're going to, you're not going to do that great. You have
yeah,
to do a lot of preparation, and then you can perform well, and then maybe you'll get lucky and get the part, right? So, but luck isn't a chance thing. Sometimes chance happens, and you do quote luck into things, but in life in general, if you prepare, you're going to be prepared. So
yeah,
that when, in Joe DiMaggio's case, that pop fly goes way out in right field, and you already know, you see the pitch and you see how the batter's standing, and you've seen this and you've studied this, you're already taken off before the balls hit the bat.
yeah.
You're going to be there waiting for it.
This reminds me, Allie, as you're talking and we're having this conversation. I have one of my biggest things that I do is I have never let people push me into anything. And I tell people, and it goes to what you were saying earlier, that yes, we might be able to physically do something, but the question still is, should we do it? And for me, my question has been for myself, am I ready for it? We were just talking about the Guinness thing earlier,
Yeah.
that a lot of times up here, I may not be. Everything else could be in place for sure. But if you're not ready up here, then you're still not going to be in the place that you need to be able to get the opportunity to be able to be what you want it to be as well. And that ties into the last thing I want to mention in this chapter that you say, Allie, making for a forward progress over time,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of how much progress we make in any given day, pays off.
Yeah.
We live in this world that people do not seem to appreciate patience, appreciate the importance of letting things brew, and also realizing that nothing happens overnight. What has helped you with your patience in that, Allie, when it comes to things you want to get done and things you want to see happen?
Yeah, yeah. Well, to your main point, I mean, yeah, there's the expression, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success,
Yeah.
right? You don't see
Hmm.
so a movie star poof pops onto the scene and you're like, wow, they came out of nowhere. It's like, no, they've been taking acting lessons since they were 6, and
Right.
they've been trying to work in, they did all the local school plays and whatever. And you don't see the work, you just see the outcome. And which is, can I just like do a little plug here, because that's
Sure.
one of the things that we wanted to explore in So What's Your Process, right? Because there's a whole process behind everything. People just poof. You talked about in your episode all of the work that you have done to get where you are. It's taken you, it's not poof, Cyrus is an
Right.
overnight success who's got a Guinness Book of World Records. It's
Yeah.
like, no, dude, you've been doing this for 20 some years, really
Right.
working at it. And Makita, who is on, so
Hmm.
we just released her episode yesterday. It's amazing. I encourage everybody to go see it.
Hmm.
And there's a whole lot of work that goes into it. And I think in the society that we have now, which is, our attention spans have dropped to something like 8 seconds.
Wow.
I mean, that's just crazy. But I read that recently,
Yeah.
that you have to capture someone's attention in 8 seconds or they're gone.
Wow.
And that's just crazy. 8 seconds, and you're going to make life decisions on this, things that are going to affect you for years.
Hmm.
But we very much have become a society that is an immediate gratification, immediate return on investment, um, information, immediate. When I was in school, how I did my research was I went to the library, I
Hmm.
looked in the card catalog, I went to that section, I went through books. Encyclopedia Britannica, I used to own a set, right? Like that was the thing, right? You would look everything up in the Encyclopedia Britannica for your historical. Now you type it
Hmm.
into Google and poof, there it is.
Right.
And you find it faster and it's easier and whatever, but people are losing the skills, the mental acuity to have the patience and realize that something may be fast, but that doesn't mean, first of all, it may not be accurate,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
get a lot of not, I mean, in doing my book, I Google things, I search, and I often get an AI answer that pops up first. One of the things was, what was on the cover of Sports Illustrated in July 17th of 1996. And so I looked it up and I was like, it's Michael Jordan and this is his outfit. And I was like, is it though? So I actually went to the Sports Illustrated archives, and I spent over an hour looking through their archives and looking at all their different covers and whatever. And I found what I needed. I just kind of got lost because I like doing research, but that
Yeah.
wasn't what was on the cover. The information
Wow.
that I got was wrong.
What's wrong?
So
Wow.
it's so
Yeah.
important to
Yeah.
realize that we have to take the time to do things right. There's another expression, right? If you want to do something right, take your time and do it right,
Hmm.
right? If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
Yeah.
And to do something quickly does not mean necessarily that you do it well.
So true. Mo Barnes, hello to you over there on IG. Glad you could join us. It's a great message. So I'm going to ask you, Al, as we wrap up here, what do you hope when people read the quote from Lenny Briscoe and think about this chapter? What do you hope they understand about as we're beginning a brand new month? What's still possible for them before this year ends?
So this is a little bit of a self plug, but my
Okay.
newsletter that's coming out tomorrow, if I can finish it, is
No,
all
I
about
love how
how
you do
not
it.
to procrastinate.
Yeah.
Because I think, circling back to how you started this, Cyrus, right? Here we are, the end of October, it's almost November. We all have these things. It's like, oh, I want to do X, I want to do
Yeah.
Y, and we're not doing it. And it hasn't happened. And it's like, what happened to my January resolution, right?
Mhm.
Well, sometimes you just need a little help figuring out those first steps and understanding that you can't eat you can't eat the elephant all at once. You have to eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? That's the expression.
Mhm.
um and so I think the message I really want people to take from this is that take the time to prepare. Do a little thing, do one thing every day, at least one thing every day towards whatever your goal or dream is. Because when you get to the end of the year, if you've just done one small thing every day, at the end of the year, you've done 365 things. And that is not a small thing. That is
Right.
huge. You've accomplished a lot. And it
Mm.
hasn't been onerous. It hasn't been burdensome.
Right.
You've been able to do it in manageable chunks.
Yeah. That was going to be my takeaway. My personal takeaway from this chapter, Allie, honestly, is do the work, but don't expect the results overnight. Don't expect because you put in your reps on Monday that on Wednesday you're going to get what you want.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it really ties in perfectly what you were just saying. And that's the way I live my life, honestly. I don't expect anything to happen overnight. Now, sometimes it will,
Mm-hmm.
Steve, too. But, I don't expect it. So that way I don't have that disappointment of I get to Friday and, oh, well, this didn't happen. I haven't gotten this yet. I just, like you said, every day just putting in something. It's such a great
Yeah.
reminder. Again, everyone, the quote is from the great Lenny Briscoe. In 20 years, DiMaggio never had to die for a ball. Funny how that happens. Again, from Allie's book, It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. Again, you can get it here on Amazon, either in print, the Kindle edition, or the audiobook as well. Allie, three things I want to ask you to remind our audience about. One, let them know how they can be able to stay connected with you. Two, how they can listen to So What's Your Process? And also three, how they can get the newsletter.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. So the easiest way to connect with me is through social media. I'm on most platforms. I'm most active on Instagram. Just look me up by name, Allie Dalsimer. And to sign up for the newsletter, go to my website, alliedalsimer.com/newsletter. It's free, goes out twice a month. I do not spam ever. I provide author updates and behind the scenes stuff. And then I also provide really practical tips for a variety of topics to help you succeed and really maximize your personal potential. And yeah, go to our YouTube station. You can find us on Instagram as well at So What's Your Process, but we do have a YouTube station, YouTube at What's Your Process? And we've got some great episodes. Makita Smith just dropped, and Cyrus was our second guest, and he was amazing. We also have Ellis Cage, who's a Broadway actor, and Sam Henderson, who is an indie filmmaker who has put out a film called Adieu, which is gut-wrenching and powerful and is an Oscar contender, I think. So we'll see. But yeah, also just to say, Cyrus dropped a little nugget that he is not released publicly. So if you want to watch his episode, you will hear it before anyone else does, but do it fast because I think he's announcing tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for that, Allie. I was going to mention that too. Yeah, make sure you guys catch the episode. In fact, I'm going to reshare it as well. Allie, do you want to tell us why you're in Utah?
Oh, yeah, I am in Utah because my son is in Dear Evan Hansen at the Pioneer Theater. He's playing Evan, and the reviews have been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I literally cried my eyes out and all my makeup off. It's a really moving and powerful production, and his performance. I saw Ben Platt on Broadway, and I have to tell you, even though I'm his mom, I really think his performance is comparable. It's amazing. And I'm just so proud of him for working so freaking hard, because this was his dream role that he really wanted. And this was one of the theaters he really wanted to be at. And he made that happen. And it's just like, you know what? You go. Because that's just.
I want to bring that up because it ties in perfectly with this week's message of
it does.
putting in your reps.
And can I just share this story? This is actually funny because this is perfect for this week's message, actually. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because the way he got this role is he lives in New York. He went in for an audition for something else. And the casting director, he did his audition and they were like, yes, thank you. That was really good. So great. And the casting director said, Kyle, what is your vocal range? And he was like, whatever, because he's got a good vocal range. Mm-hmm. And he's like, would you, what do you think about doing something like Dear Evan Hansen, 8 shows a week? And he was like, yes, I would love it. And so he was invited to audition for that role. And it was a very competitive process. And he got that role, but he almost didn't go to that audition because he knew he wasn't right for the part. Right. Wow. He was like, I'm not really a right fit for this role. And then he was like, well, you know what? I'm not doing anything else right now. I might as well go. It'll give me a chance to sing and they'll be able to see me. And, maybe they'll remember me for a future audition. And he almost didn't go. So go for it. Do the work hard, and you can achieve your dreams.
There we go. That's another proof. Congratulations to you, Kyle. Really happy for you and all you're doing. Allie, so glad that you could be there to experience it with him. And thank you for another great week.
And thank you, Cyrus, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Really,
Exactly.
really appreciate that.
So just go do it. That's the message for this week. We do appreciate you guys being with us for this week's episode of It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. Until next week, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.